see you.
Avatar: Fire and Ash is now streaming on Disney+. It's the film critics are calling the best Avatar yet.
Yeah! Go, 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 go!
A true epic and completely jaw-dropping.
This is the only pure thing in this world.
Return to Pandora on Disney+.
It will be an adventure for the whole family.
And watch the Oscar-winning phenomenon at home.
This is sick!
Avatar: Fire and Ash, now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
All right. This ain't just a show. This is a platform. Veteran built, battle tested. Welcome to the MisFitNation. Yeah! In a room, built from boots on the ground, now we breaking the rules. 2 vets, 1 leader, painting the sound, turn scars into sermons, let them echo around. Authors with truth, musicians with fire, actors backstage chasing something higher. Entrepreneurs bleeding just to get ahead. If you fought for your dream, yeah, you are what you said. If they told you no, if you still came back, if you fell to your knees but you stayed on track, this is your voice, this is your flame. Say it loud, remember the name. No salvation, just elevation. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. No damn labels, no damn cages. If you're still breathing, you belong. Turn it up. This is our song. Yeah. This is our song. Yeah. Veterans standing with ghosts in the chest. First responders running in while the world second guess. Gold star names carved deep in the soul. Your story ain't over, we carry the whole. Coaches teaching mindset, breaking the chain, turning barely alive into owning the pain. Truth over polish, scars on display. If it's real, let it bleed. That's the misfit play. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. It's Aubrey right now. We're the more than you know. Don't walk alone. Veterans press 1, bring it home. Don't trade forever for tonight. You're still needed in this fight. We are the Misfit Nation, built from scars and dedication. We rise again. From the fire, from the fight to the end. We are the Misfit Nation. Every voice is vindication. From the silence to the scream, we're strong. Welcome home, you belong. You belong. You belong. Oh wait, you. Oh wait,
Woo! All right. Welcome back to the Misfit Nation in the Thursday after dinner show. We know you have other places you could be tonight, but you choose to collect your frequent flyer miles right here with us on the Misfit Nation. Thanks for hanging out with us. I know you could be watching the World Cup, Indiana Fever are playing right now, or your favorite sitcom that's on TV right now, but you're here with us and we appreciate that. Tonight we have a good one. We're joined by a man who has spent more than 3 decades operating and leading in some of the highest pressure environments imaginable. Bill Young served 25 years with the Pennsylvania State Police, 6 years at NASA's Kennedy Space Center, and led SWAT teams for both organizations. Today, he teaches leadership, command, and decision-making to tactical professionals across the country. If you ever wondered what real leadership looks like when failure isn't an option, this conversation is one you don't want to miss. So please help me in welcoming Bill Young to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Bill.
Thanks, Rich. Great to be here. And I love the NASA reference. Failure is not an option.
There you go. Definitely. It definitely isn't there. It's a 100% success or 100% failure. So,
Right.
So, Bill, I gave the elevator pitch about you there. If you want to fill in some blanks about any highlights or anything you want to join us to focus in on, just share that now with the Misfit Nation.
Sure. Like you said, 25 years with the Pennsylvania State Police. So lucky to have served along some of the best police officers and learned so much from the group of individuals that I worked with there. And then when I retired, I decided I wanted to move to Florida and luckily find myself over at NASA and once again working around some great people. And no matter where I go, one of the things that I most appreciate about the job, and especially working with SWAT in Pennsylvania with my team there, working at NASA with my team there, and now as I go across the country, and I'm not really doing it anymore, but I get to see the great work that other teams are doing. It truly is an honor to be able to spend time with these people that are the most motivated, want to do great work and are doing great work and just saving lives every day. So that's what I'm doing right now. Just still trying to share some of the knowledge and some of the lessons I've learned with the younger guys and gals that are out there still fighting a good fight today.
Definitely. As we were talking in the green room, we know that those men and women that are out there fighting that good fight are also stretched completely thin now because there's so many other things they have to do now, even with technology that should be making things easier. There's not enough of them to do the job. So it's still as hard as it was when you first started 31 years plus ago. And now they have technology plus a lot more things to do. And I'm sure you see a lot of that when they come to you for help in leadership training. Yeah. How do you try to get them to focus on, finding the right thing to focus on during the day?
It's such a great point because it is true that you can't ignore the force multiplier that technology is for us in law enforcement. It's not just law enforcement, but for us, and especially in SWAT, it's a huge game changer for us. But as you kind of indicated, this presents a whole new set of problems, especially for leadership when you start to introduce the technology. And I had the pleasure, one of the things I get to do for the NTOA, the National Tactical Officers Association, along with teaching, is I do some SWAT team reviews. And so you see some of these common themes when I'm out there interacting with the teams. The technology is so valuable, but think about some of the challenges that it does present, because now you need there's a new area of expertise that has to be mastered for these SWAT officers, right? When you think about it, the technology is valuable, but the time that's put into mastering how to deploy it and use it effectively and maintaining it, now it creates a need for more training time. And now you've got other decisions you got to make. How do I dedicate my training time that's already too small, right? We're always looking for more training time. And now we've got to task it out to these other areas. We're constantly, as you said, being pulled in multiple directions. Technology is a great force multiplier for us, but it does bring with it some challenges, another leadership challenge for the team leaders and the team commanders.
Definitely does. And I've seen it on the military side as technology advanced and things, you had to carry more things to make things work.
Right.
More stuff. And you had to learn what each one of those things and stuff did in order to make your team actually operate in a sustainable fashion. I'm sure for you guys, as people come and try to field things to you and say, hey, this widget's going to make your job so much easier. You just need to send 3 of your dudes to training for maybe 6 hours a week for X amount of weeks until they can be proficient at it. How do you get your mind around that as a leader? Say, hey, look, I can't let these 3 dudes go for that long and still operate as a team.
Very difficult, right? It's always you're taking from one thing to give to another. And so it is one of those important leadership functions. And this is the bottom line for leaders in those positions. You've got to be engaged. And this is the message that I really send to the leaders, that you can't be in the office in trying to figure these difficult problems out. You've got to be out there in the field with them, and you got to be going to training, and you got to be closely engaged with the team so you understand exactly the dynamics involved here. One of the, just like you said, the demands that's created with this new technology, it means that we've got to take time away from something else. And I see it happen time and time again. What do you think suffers when we start to we add on a new capability or we add a new technology to our tool belt? It seems like it's always the basics. The fundamentals start to go away. And if you're not engaged and you're not watching your team and you're not at training, you're not seeing what's happened, because the reality is, while technology is a great risk mitigator for us, and it's got lots of applications to help us safely meet our objectives, the bottom line is we still got to be good at the fundamentals. We still got to be good in the way we move in open areas, the way we move through structures, and all the tactical skills are still required. So you've got to keep an eye on what's happening to make sure that if there is something new that we've acquired, fantastic, but we got to make sure we're not losing a valuable skill in the process.
Oh, definitely. And I'm sure that adds to the bigger list of things as a leader in that situation that you have to think about every day, your checklist, all the things you have to do right in order to get those dudes and dudettes where they have to be. And then when the bell goes off, you got to drop all that stuff and go to the other checklist and make sure everything's going the right way. And now, as you transitioned and you start training people, I'm sure it's a little different for you now, not having to worry about the burden of leading them into the battle or into the situation. Now you're teaching what to do in those situations. How does that feel for you as that transitioned out?
I'll tell you that it is difficult at times, because I do miss the arena, so to speak. I'm not going to lie. I do miss it. And, you would think that all those worries that you have when you've got your men that you're deploying out into these dangerous situations might go away now that I'm just teaching it, but it really doesn't, because I still say my prayers every day. And I ask God to please help me to tell these guys and gals the right thing to do. You hope that you're giving them the right information to help them ultimately, which is another thing I love about SWAT. Ultimately, if you ask any SWAT guy or girl, they're going to tell you the same thing. Why are we here? Why do we do what we do? Well, it's to save lives, so that's ultimately always our objective in SWAT. So I do love it. I do enjoy it. And I have a chance to kind of focus more on the instruction, right? So that is a good thing. I don't have multiple things going on while I'm trying to do that too, but still got a lot of the same worries that I had even when I was still in that arena.
Definitely. Now I want to go into that flashback machine. So when you started your career, why did you go into police work in the first place? Was it a family thing? Everyone in the family did it, or you were the first one to join in?
I was the first one. There's no one in my family that has been in law enforcement, and I'm a little bit envious of those families that have that law enforcement legacy. I mean, I love to see it. It's so cool to see families that had generations of law enforcement. But I'm not sure what it was. It's something I always wanted to do. When I graduated from high school, everybody was making the push to go to college and get a computer science degree, and had zero interest in it, but everybody told me to do it, so I did it. And when I got out of college, I promptly applied for the state police in Pennsylvania and just waited for them to give me the call. I was so happy to get that call. I remember back in those days, I just didn't want to do anything but police work. And so was lucky, as I said, to have a really good career around a lot of good people that really showed me how to do the job. And that's how it all started.
Wow. And for me, I was pushed to go to college as well. And it was to get a business degree, because that's what everyone wanted to get back then, was a business degree. And I tried accounting first, and I was falling asleep in class. So I just went to like business management, business marketing. And then I just like finally, no, I can't do this no more. And that's when I went full time in the Army. I said, I got to get out of here. I joined the Army and did that for 22 years. Then graduated college right at the end of my 22 years. So 24 years it took me to graduate college.
Oh, but you did it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, there might have been a few visits to the dean's office by me that kind of had me just barely being able to graduate that first time around. And then when I went back the second time, it was a much different story. But yeah, I just barely made it through college. But that's how my career started. And man, I'm really lucky to have been able to spend the time that I did with those people and then move on to Florida and work in NASA with those folks. And now, as I said, sharing my ideas about bringing control, in some sense, of order to chaotic situations.
Definitely. We got an early question from the audience here. This is from Celtos1. What steps are you guys going to take to counter the threat posed by Antifa? I think this is an opinion question for you since you're not in the seat no more.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that it's not my wheelhouse. It's not my area of expertise, but I will say we do have folks in the NTOA, in the public disorder realm, that these guys are experts, and they've been going around the country and spent a lot of time with teams to prepare, and they have been out there, right? They've been dealing with the threats that Antifa poses. So it's a special threat that they bring to the table. I have a little bit of experience back in Pittsburgh when I was still in Pennsylvania with the state police, worked closely with that Pittsburgh Bureau of Police SWAT team. And we had the G20 summit that was held in Pittsburgh, kind of a last minute move from Atlanta to Pittsburgh in 2009 or 2010, I want to say. So we didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare how we were going to prepare for what we expected to be large crowds and some public disorder. But there was a lot of anarchists, right, and the Antifa types that were there. And we learned a lot of good lessons from there. And we were able to incorporate our mobile field forces, which are those folks in law enforcement specially trained to deal with the public disorder mission. But we also aligned SWAT teams and SWAT elements with those groups to provide some specialized support. We're still doing that today. So you see where the mobile field force units are working hand in hand with SWAT to solve the problems that we see with these large crowds and the special problems that Antifa throws at us when we have these large crowds and protests.
That's a great answer to that question. And watching them paid protesters come out and do their thing and seeing what the havoc they bring to the table and knowing they know how far they can push it before something can happen to them. And then there's that one agitator in there that makes the law enforcement professional have to step over a line and do something that they didn't want to do that day and have to do it. And my thoughts go out to those guys and girls who are on that front line every day and have to deal with those people that are doing that. And the restraint that they have not to just belt them sometimes and to walk away a happy person.
It really is true, and you nailed something that's really kind of an emerging important topic for us, not only in law enforcement, but especially in SWAT, is the emotional intelligence training that we get. Because it is so important, as you said, to have a handle on your emotions when you're faced with that type of, torment, I'll call it, when you have these protesters that are in your face trying to control your emotions so that you can make sound decisions. And again, as you said, even as you walk away, because you have to have those skills to manage the stress as it's unfolding, or the acute stress, then you also have to understand how to manage that chronic effect of stress, because these things pile up, right? And how well are we at understanding that we don't really reset? And when we walk away from whatever that difficult, stressful situation is, are we good at managing the long-term effects even of the stress, not just the acute effects of it? So good point there, Rich.
And I think for you guys and the law enforcement and the soldiers out there, that's a thing that's a burden that stays on your shoulders forever. Once you compartmentalize that stuff at the time, and then like for you, when you turned it off and now you're sitting on the other side on the bench, kind of just watching the other people go in there and in the arena, like you said earlier. And for us, we take our boots off. Now it's all in your mind. What did I do then? Did I do it right? Did this work out? Did I compartmentalize at the right time? Or should I have yelled and screamed, let all this stuff out? And that's why we're losing so many dudes and dudettes right now after service on both sides of this fight.
Very true. Definitely.
Got another question from my brothers in here. He's the host of our Tuesday crew. How realistic is shows like SWAT to what actually happens in real life?
Man, I'll tell you what, I cannot watch it because I'll see something that I look at and say, who was their technical advisor on this show? Because this just doesn't line with the way things are in real life, and there are some things that are, but I know some guys that are technical advisors for those shows, but I still think they get overruled at times for whatever reason, right? We want to glamorize the show or make it look different or whatever. But man, I'm going to go, if I had to pull a percentage out of my head, I'd say maybe 50-50, 50% of the stuff you're looking at is about right. 50 of it, not so much.
Not so much. Like was it Samuel L. Jackson in the movie running through sewers and reversing claymores and such? Yeah.
Well, not only that, one of my favorite movies is John McClane and Bruce Willis. What was the name of the movie? Die Hard. Yeah. I love that movie. I love Bruce Willis, but man, so much stuff just is not real, right?
Yeah. That's why I try to explain that to people too when they say, "Oh, does that happen in war?" I said they do say hello and they do shoot guns and stuff like that, but everything in the middle is Hollywood. Just
right.
Take it with a grain of salt. The biggest argument was the American Lone Survivor. The scene when they're falling down the mountain. You think that really happened? I don't think anyone can fall down a mountain like that, hit a tree, and get back up and start shooting. There's no way. But Hollywood, you can do that.
Right.
And you just got to keep that mindset to think that, hey, this is Hollywood. It's not real, and they have to sell tickets.
Right on.
In the green room, we also talked about leading in chaos. What do you think separates elite teams from average teams when it comes to leading in chaos?
Man, that's a great way to put it. Elite team versus average team. And my answer is two things. If you're going to take that 50,000 foot view, right, and then we can narrow our focus. But to start with, there's two things that separate the really elite or high performance teams from those that are good or average. And it's high levels of trust that are pervasive throughout the entire team, right? So trust at extremely high levels. And then the other thing is, I refer to it as change, but really what I'm saying is teams that are really good at getting better at what they do. So it's a constant assessment of where we're at and always looking at it like this, through this lens, man, we're not good enough. We need to get better. And so when you've got high levels of trust, you reduce all the friction. When you reduce all that friction, you streamline decision-making. When you streamline decision-making, you get things done at a faster rate. And for us, you hear a lot of people talking about this in different disciplines, because this stuff can apply really in any organization. And a lot of people say, man, when we can streamline things, what happens? Well, we save money, which can be true for us. But when we streamline things, we have high levels of trust. We have less friction within the team, and we're constantly improving what we do. We're basically saying we're saving lives, right? We're getting better at saving lives, because ultimately that's our objective with SWAT. Our mission objectives always have, or almost always have, some sort of life-saving aspect to them. So those high performance teams, from that wide view, I'm going to say, man, they got really high levels of trust in every level of the team. And they've got the mindset that, hey, we're really not good enough. We got to get better at the things we do.
So it comes down to that sports mentality. More practice equals better performance. And the same thing, basically SWAT and our special forces are just tactical athletes and tactical extreme. It's really, so you guys have to train all the time. People think that, like watching the shows or movies, that they do a little bit of training, shoot playing cards out of pools, but you guys actually do a lot of training every day or every week. You do some intense training that also coincides with, hey, we have a real world call out today, and that switch has to turn quickly. But that builds that trust between the team, where you know what that person to your right is going to do at all times, and that person to the left. And like you said earlier, that trust, what they're going to do, and they know what your decisions are going to be before you even make it, because you've done it so many times in practice.
That is right on, man. Like the trust between the guys, I'll call it like lateral trust, is extremely high. And it comes from spending time together. And as you said, training. The reality of SWAT is, and if you ask any SWAT team this, and I ask the guys all the time what their thoughts are on this, but you'll get pretty much the same answer. How long does it take a new SWAT officer to really get his feet or her feet under her, to really know what they're doing. Typically, we're talking 3 to 5 years. So it takes a great investment of time and effort to get to the point where you're really a capable SWAT officer. In that time that you spend in training and all those particular skills that go into being a SWAT officer, there's so many things that go into it. They're so critical to being able to perform at a high level. And all those things are really necessary. But the interesting thing that I'll say, that I've seen teams that have, even though they have the high levels of physical fitness, they got the high levels of skills related to firearms and all that. All those things are definitely necessary. But guess what? If you have those ingredients like trust that are missing, they're not going to be a high performing team routinely. So that trust is so important, that you have that built in, and not only laterally across, but up and down, right? The SWAT officers trust their squad and team leaders, and the team leaders and the squad leaders trust their commander, and back and forth, back and down. So that trust level, I'll call it like the personality or the culture of the team, is such an important factor when you think about whether or not this team is really, as you put it, an elite team or somewhere approaching an elite team. It's up for that commander to really be the one that identifies what that culture is. And are we going to have high levels of trust? And are we going to have that mindset that we're constantly trying to get better at what we do, finding new and better ways to do things?
Definitely. And you said it takes 3 to 5 years to really get their feet wet. When they are selected, do the SWAT officers, the leaders, go out and like handpick a patrolman or a detective, or do they have to apply and then try out?
Yeah, typically there's an application, right? And it can be different in different agencies, but normally agencies will post that they're going to have a selection process for the team. And you'll give the agency folks that are interested in it some time to prepare, because normally it's a pretty extensive process that the teams will put their candidates through to try to determine if these are the type of people that we want, right? Trying to screen for a bunch of different things, dependability, right? How are we flexible? Are we innovative? Do I have the physical skills that are necessary? Am I good with the weapon systems? Am I really good at decision making? Really the most important one, because we need people with heads that aren't broke, right? We got to have really solid thinkers and decision makers. So there's a whole slew of criteria that teams typically will look for during what might be a 2, 3, even a 4 or 5 day selection process where they screen candidates. And then they'll rank them, right? And it just depends how many openings teams have on how many they might bring on board. The key is, and I tell commanders this and team leaders this when we train all the time, that we've got to identify, we got to have a solid selection process, which a lot of teams do. Like they identify what the critical skills are that we're looking for, what's the characteristics of the candidates that we're looking for. We have a good screening process, and then we identify our standards that they've got to have to be able to go on to that next phase, which is typically the basic SWAT school. But what we don't want to do, and sometimes we get pressured into situations where we need bodies, right? And we get tempted to kind of swerve from what we identify as those standards, which I'm always very cautious about, because this is just problems for us down the road. If we identify what those standards are that we're looking for, we need to hold our team to those standards. And the problem, though, is, it's these competing interests. Right now, we have a hard enough time getting people to want to be police officers, let alone be SWAT officers. And so the candidate pool, for instance, today in 2026, as opposed to 1991 when I tried out, completely different. It's amazing to me when I see how many people are trying out for SWAT these days. It's just the numbers just aren't there. So it does make it very difficult for these team leaders and commanders to get the bodies they need. But it is important to hold those standards.
I think if they made a better movie, more people would want to be a SWAT team member, and maybe if the news was on your side.
Well, I will say, it's good to see. Like I said, I go out there. I never had to do this in my time. We always had a ton of candidates for the team. But with the pressures now the teams are facing, they're coming up with some really innovative ways to try to get people interested and recruit. They're bringing them on to training days, right? They're letting them see how the team operates. They're bringing them in kind of a limited capacity at times, maybe operating some of their armored vehicles or maybe even bringing them in to use some of their technology to help them utilize technology in different ways to try to get their feet wet and phase them in to get them accustomed to what the job is all about. So teams are having to do this. They're having to be innovative in the way that they get the number of candidates and bodies to try to get on the teams.
And sometimes that's the best way to recruit. Let them get the taste of it, get
Right.
that taste of what they could get into, and say, oh, wow, this is much better than being on patrol every day. This is a lot of fun. And it won't be as monotonous. I'll have a lot more skills as I go through my career as a police officer, and then I can make better decisions on where I want to go in the future.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. One thing that I found is no matter where I go, it seems like the SWAT is kind of like the officer candidate school of law enforcement, because you put these men and women in situations in training and in real operations where they're making decisions under compressed time frames. And when the stakes are high, they become very good problem solvers and decision makers. And now that kind of accelerates their ability to advance through the ranks. So it's definitely something that they carry with them throughout their career.
All right, we got a couple more questions in the comments section here. How often do members cycle out? That's the first question.
Yeah, good question, and one it's changed a lot too, along with a number of candidates we used to get back in the day. You figured a guy, if he got on a team, he was going to stay for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Nowadays, not so much. It's very rare to see somebody on a team that long. So unfortunately, I'm going to guess that you see a lot of these officers cycling out around 3 to 5 years or thereabouts, just when they're really starting to get a feel for what it's all about. That's one of the most difficult things about it, but it's just the nature of the way it is, the way the job is right now. There's a lot of movement. There's been restrictions. A lot of teams are collateral duty, meaning they're not full-time SWAT, right? They're on patrol or they're detectives, but they're also on SWAT. So you've got these competing interests, and you've got to wear multiple hats, and then you're lucky if you get some sleep in between calls. There's so many dynamics involved there, but there's a lot of reasons that these folks are leaving the team now that maybe they wouldn't have before. So a lot of agencies are saying, hey, once you get promoted, you got to leave the team. Okay, well, that's a problem right there, because now we've got a lot of experience and we want somebody to get promoted, but they can't stay on the team. So it kind of creates that dilemma. Or maybe they want to go into another specialization, investigations, but maybe the agency will say, yeah, you can't do both, right? Again, with that competing interest thing. So maybe they're going to leave the team, or maybe the demands that's on the family, because there's no question the team work puts demands on the family, and these folks are making decisions, and I don't blame them for it, right? Families first. But sometimes they say, I just can't do it anymore. It's too much of a strain on my family. So the answer is about 3. I'm guessing right now, I'm no longer in the game, but I want to say 3 to 5 years. You're seeing a lot of people cycle out of the job, as opposed to 20, 30 years ago. It was at least twice as long before they would be leaving the team.
I know here in Clarksville, it's a collateral duty for patrol officers or detectives to do both. So if an incident happens, they then turn the hat over and they pick the stuff out of their trunk and they become the SWAT team or the tactical engagement team. And
there's a good aspect to that too. I've always said that there are good aspects to that, because you've got those folks out on patrol who, when something kicks off, they're right there. So you've got a good guy or girl that's a good decision maker, who's got some special equipment and got some ability to do some things and make it happen. So we don't have to wait for the team to get there. We already got somebody there. So there are some good aspects to that collateral duty.
Yeah, that's a great point, that they're already on scene most of the time, because the patrol officer is usually the first one that arrives and is able to make the call, say, hey, yeah, we need SWAT, unless they're already called from higher. But usually there's someone else on the ground first. And if it's a person that's trained with the team or has been part of that collateral duty, it's probably better to have them there on the ground first, to at least become that on-scene commander until the actual commander gets there.
Yeah, for sure. They start working the problem, and we're a little bit ahead of the game. Not to say those frontline supervisors that would be there otherwise shouldn't be trained in critical incident management and start already working a problem too. But you definitely got some extra expertise when you got a SWAT guy there that's starting to work the problem.
Definitely. And the next question is from Celtos again. He wants to know, or she, I'm not even sure, how much ammo does a SWAT team carry?
A lot. I mean, it really depends. It's situational. You know, for a lot of years, I was a point man, which meant like on my entry element, I was the first guy. I had a ballistic shield. So I had a sidearm and I had a backup sidearm. So, you know, I've got probably like 6 mags, right, from my pistols. But then I've got a cover guy who's got a shoulder fired weapon, you know, at that time, either an MP5 or maybe an M4. He's got a sidearm, so he's got several mags for each of those. You know, so it just really depends on what your assignment is. You've got other assignments within a team that have not only lethal but less lethal munitions. So you've got multiple rounds and with each one of those different weapon systems. So the one thing that I will say, and it was a lesson learned back in 2009 in the city of Pittsburgh. We had a standoff with a suspect who had ambushed and murdered 3 city police officers, and shootout ensued for hours with that suspect who was barricaded in the home. Thousands of rounds of ammunition fired, right? And so we realized in our rescue vehicles, we needed to have a lot of ammunition staged. And so in armored vehicles and other rescue vehicles, now we realize like this is something that we've got to make sure we've got enough ammunition, you know, regardless of what the situation is. We got to have a lot of extra ammunition immediately available to us.
I mean, sometimes it's tough lessons like that in a situation like that fosters the next standard operating procedure for you guys to make sure that you know what more to bring to a situation in case that kind of situation arises again when you're on the ground.
Yeah, and it's one of those aspects of a team that I'll go back and say that to me is an indication of a really good high performance team. And this is pretty much the culture of every SWAT team. Every mission you go on, you're going to dissect it very close because you know that it's not perfect. Like you'll never go on a perfect mission. And so we're going to closely look at every one of these, and there's going to be lessons to take away from every one of them. And when we do that, we closely scrutinize every one of these, and you take something away from it and you get a little bit better at it. That's another thing that really leads to a good elite team.
Definitely after action is the best way, I guess, it's like watching film for sports teams. Same thing
Right.
for the military too. You go back and you talk it out, that hot wash right after an incident. You get that hot wash, get them notes down. Then you take a breath and come back and talk about it even more in depth because you got to get that adrenaline, let it drain out a little bit, then talk at a calm level and understand it's over. And now you can learn and grow from that. And I think that's what separates the best platoons, the best SWAT teams from everyone else because they can learn and grow from every situation, knowing that we're humans for one, so we're going to make mistakes on target. And 2, we have to learn from those mistakes instead of keep doing them again, learn from them and move forward and do better the next time.
Yeah, it's that extreme ownership that Jocko Willink talked about, right? Or, you know, you could call it accountability, but it really is the sign of an elite team when nobody is above being scrutinized, including the commander, the team leaders, everybody, right? So that transparency is key.
100%. And with that, what mindset helps people survive in these difficult or dangerous situations?
So, you know, I'll say this too. It's situational. If we're going to, the commanders, what the tools the commander needs in the command post are probably a little different than the tools the team leader needs, who's kind of like the field director, you know, in the SWAT officers. But some of the things that I'll say can be helpful in either one of those instances are heuristics or something you refer to, checklists, right? The commanders on scene typically have a lot of checklists. There's a whole lot of things they've got to make sure are happening. And even the most experienced commander probably is going to need a physical checklist or numerous physical checklists to make sure he's covering all the bases. These situations are so dynamic when you think about the nature of these. They're crises, right? But they're actually conflicts, which means we have an adversary. We have a bad guy who's trying to impose his will on us. And that kind of makes it a unique situation for us. And there's so many things to consider. So the commander's got checklists that he goes through. And, I could name a bunch of them. But if you think about those guys on the ground, the boots on the ground, they don't really have the luxury of pulling out a checklist typically, right? But they have tools that they take with them to help them make decisions, these heuristics. One of the things that we teach in the NTOA is a tactical decision-making model. I think it's extremely helpful for team leaders and even any SWAT officer that deploys. And we call it the PI2 tactical decision-making model. And I don't know if you've ever heard of this or not, but it's just a heuristic, right? It's kind of like a quick mental checklist that you can immediately deploy anytime you find yourself in a tactical situation to make sure you've covered all the bases. And so what it stands for, the first letter P stands for priorities. So you're just going to quickly look at the situation and you're going to say, well, what are the mission priorities here? So for instance, if we got a hostage situation, we know, hey, our hostage is being rescued. That's our priority. And then we also look at what we call the safety priorities. And we quickly evaluate the situation based on these safety priorities. And what that looks like is we know in any situation we have people that are in more danger and they have less control. So for instance, a hostage would fit into that category, right? They're in the most danger and they have the least amount of control. On the other end of that priorities is the suspect because he's got the most control and he has the ability to end this thing at any time. And he's in the least amount of danger. And then in the middle is usually law enforcement, right? So we use the P part to kind of quickly prioritize our actions. The next step on this heuristic is the I phase. It's intelligence. What's the intelligence tell us? What's the critical information? Then we assess the environment, the E part. What's the terrain look like? What's the structure look like? And we look at the tactics and tools that we have and see what's available to us. And then the last one is, what do our instincts tell us, right? Don't ever ignore the power of your instincts as an officer. So we have a lot of heuristics like this that we can use and train people to use to quickly sort through a chaotic situation to try to bring some order and control from the chaos and start to minimize the risk.
That's awesome. I like that. Pi, you said Pi O, right? Pi O.
Two, it's PIE2. I might have forgot the T, which is the tactics and the technology, which we might have available to us too.
And that leads to one of the questions in the chat: that does SWAT use drones to recon buildings now, for example?
Yeah, SWAT's definitely using drones in a lot of different ways. It's a huge game changer for SWAT. They can use them in a lot of different ways, and you're only limited by your imagination, right? How you can use these things.
Yes, definitely, 100%. They're a game changer as long as you have that trained operator there to use it and keep them in the fight as well.
Yeah.
Another question from Steve. We usually speak to military personnel and found out how hard it is for them to admit about having PTSD. How bad is it with the teams you were on, and do they communicate it better?
It's not good. There's still this stigma with it. It's getting better, though. I do believe that we're finally bringing this out, and it's a serious topic. It's kind of like we talked about with the emotional intelligence education part that we discuss, because it's not just about being able to make decisions and manage the stress as the incident's unfolding. It's how we carry it with us. But still, there's this stigma in law enforcement, I think, that a lot of people feel that they can't really admit that they need to get some additional support or help. But I think it is getting better. I think we're getting better at it. We're starting to really get that message home that we've got to manage the stress better. And the interesting thing that I found, I'm definitely not an expert in this, but what I found is guys and gals that are exposed to these stressful situations, everybody responds differently, right? You don't know how these critical incidents or the things that happen are going to affect anybody, and everybody is kind of affected in their own timeline, and everybody's affected in a different way. And so for me, the important leadership message for a team leader or for a commander is to say, you've got to, again, it goes back to being engaged. You got to watch your people. You got to monitor them. You got to talk to them, and you got to make sure that if there is something going on, that we're aware of it and that they're getting the attention that they need.
Definitely. And like you said, that everyone's on a different timeline. I remember going through a firefight in Iraq, and there'd be 4 of us that went through the same exact firefight, but seen different things, different angles of it, and had different effects of it later in life or later that day. And you never know who's going to have an effect first or what's going to affect them more. Could it be the smells? Could it be what they saw, or what's going to trigger it later? And that's the same thing you guys have gone through as well. And yours can be on every day, because every day you're on. We get to come home and kind of refit and then do it again, but you guys are doing it every day.
You know, and it's an interesting point that you brought up, because I've seen the same thing. It's all the senses are affected when we're in stressful situations. They're all affected, and you never know what sense might trigger something that has occurred, you know, and that's why one of the things I do when we talk about preparing for stressful situations is one of the things I like to talk to guys and gals about is mental rehearsal. If you can mentally rehearse before you're getting ready to do something and try to condition all your senses to what you might experience, it can be very helpful to, I'll say kind of shrink that decision-making loop that you find yourself in. Because if your senses are affected and you haven't expected it, it can have a tendency to distract us and cause a delay and extend that, what we call that OODA loop, our decision-making loop gets extended. So yeah, the senses, it's important to understand how they're all really affected by these things.
Definitely. Got another couple questions from the audience popping in. They want you tonight. This is from Sly Simply OF. What's the toughest leadership decision you ever had to make as a SWAT commander, and what did it teach you about leading when there are no perfect options?
Oh, you would think that the answer to this has something to do with a hostage situation or some violent apprehension, and it's not. The toughest thing I had to do, a decision I had to make as a SWAT commander, was to fire one of the guys that I came through my basic SWAT school with, who I'd worked closely with for many years. And some things changed and some things happened. And man, it wasn't easy for me, but I knew it was the right thing to do, and I had to do it. And, shit, that was probably the toughest decision I had ever had to make as a commander.
I'm sure it is, especially when you have that connection with them.
Yeah, right. I mean,
it steps all the way up. That's rough.
Yeah.
That's something that you can't. It's hard to just walk away from and say, "Hey, let's go have a beer." No, I just fired you.
Yeah, that didn't happen, Rich. I did.
Things get a little worse.
Yeah.
And next one is from Celebrate You. When everything is happening fast and the pressure is extreme, how do elite leaders stay calm and make good decisions while others panic?
Man, lots of good questions tonight.
Yeah.
This is part of commander training, and it's really, I'll say, from the commander's perspective, this is so important, because you're either emotional control or your lack of emotional control is contagious. If I'm very calm and collected, my team's going to be the same way. On the other hand, if I'm very excited and I seem to be out of control and highly emotional, my team's probably going to reflect that. So it's really important. And the first step towards maintaining that composure, I'll say, is education. The first thing you have to understand as a commander is that you are going to be inserted into these crisis, and again, I'll differentiate. It's not just a crisis, because a crisis can be like a natural disaster or some mechanical calamity, a plane crash or something like that. But we're talking about a conflict where we have an adversary who is trying to impose his will on us, and we're trying to impose our will on him. And so in those conflict situations, we know they're inherently dangerous. They're filled with uncertainty. You never have all the information. You're never going to have all the information to make decisions. And there's this friction because things are going to happen. Information and intel's coming in. Some of it's good. Some of them isn't. It's a very difficult environment to operate in. But with that being said, you have to thrive in it. That has to be an environment that the commander thrives in. And the first step in that is being aware of it. I know that this is what this is going to be like, and I'm ready for it. And you just let the process take its steps. You have a checklist that we will use to make sure we're starting to bring that order to the chaos. And we know there's a process to this. Every situation is unique, but we also understand there are ways to start to bring order and control from chaos and minimize the safety. From a command perspective, the most powerful thing I can do in this regard occurs prior to the major violent event. And I stole that from the godfather of SWAT, Ron McCarthy, who was LAPD SWAT commander. And Ron McCarthy used to say this, and I still say it's such a valuable lesson for any commander. True leadership occurs prior to the major violent event. And what that really means is I've trained my team leaders and my SWAT officers on how to handle these situations. I've given them the tools they need. I've educated them. I've trained them. I've given opportunities to work these problems before they're going to see them in real life. Now I just got to let them go out there and take care of business. And I make sure that they have the resources they need. If there's something that they need, whether it's manpower, equipment, if they've forgotten something and I've seen that they maybe need to check on something, I'll give them a cue for that. But just maintaining your composure and knowing that we have a system to solve these problems and that you've trained your people to go out there and make decisions in real time to save lives. Because the reality is, from a command perspective, I can't be making those decisions in real time, because by the time it gets to me and I tell them what to do, it's too late. The situation unfolds too quickly. I've got to have it. And it goes back to what we said earlier. I've got complete trust in my team leaders and my SWAT officers, and I know that they can take care of business. I give them what they need, and I let them manage the problem in real time from their level. And I know that they will make those streamlined decisions in a way that is going to reduce the risk, in a way that, that's going to work out best for us. The reality, though, is that we know this. There's no crystal ball that gives us the answer. We never have 100% of the information, and we know there's always risk. We don't know if it's going to work out the way we want it to or not. All we can do is apply the tactics, technique, procedures, and let our people make the decisions to save lives and see what happens.
Definitely. And, like you said earlier, the accused also has a vote in every situation, and they have the biggest vote because they hold all the cards at the time. So all your training has to come in based on what you think you know about him and your instincts. Like you said earlier, instincts is a big thing for you guys, especially walking into a house with that kind of know the setup, but that's when the technology comes in, drones, or if you have little robots, you can throw them in there as well and help you guys out to map things out and maybe see where this person is. But other than that, you guys go in blind and don't underestimate the training that you guys have. Like as the tactical commander, you're so far beyond where they're standing. It's kind of like the scene from Black Hawk Down when the helicopter's above and the convoy keeps getting told to go directions after the turns and such. That's what'll happen if you're making a decision for the point man.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And so, like you said, the suspect always has a say. That's what makes it so uncertain, unpredictable, is that human dimension that we're dealing with. And all we can do is let those guys go out there. We put plans into place, contingency plans that are layered, and we try to think about all the what ifs and plan for all those and give those guys the tools they need and let them make decisions and do what they do to save lives.
100%. And I want to get into Castellan Group here in a minute. But we have a question, I think, that leads into what you do at Castellan Group. So we'll get this one in there, and then we'll talk more about it. At Tough Ram C, based on your decades of tactical experience, what's one thing everyday citizen should know about recognizing danger and increasing their chances of surviving a violent encounter?
Oh, man, another great question. I'm going to say this. If I had to pick one, it's situational awareness. And, that situational awareness is a huge deal for the tactical commander. And it's a huge deal for people every day. And when they go out, wherever they're going, because you see it, I see it all the time. People have their heads buried in their phone and they have no awareness of what's going on around them. And understanding how these layers of awareness can really help you, and not looking at your phone. If you have to glance at it and put it down. But understanding that I like to say there's 3 layers of our situational awareness we should be aware of. What's going on within a couple arm's lengths of me. I'm always scanning that area in close proximity to me when I'm out and about, or if I'm at the movie theater, or I'm in the shopping mall, right? Whatever the deal is for anybody, be aware of what is in close proximity to you. Then also scan what's within eye shot of you. There's always things to be aware of at a distance. And it could be just something simple as, oh, I see an exit down there. Maybe I'll have to use that if something happens. It's good to note, right? I'm going to put that in my brain. That's a good place for me to get to if something starts going sideways. So there's that close proximity. There's within eye shot, that situational awareness I should always be aware of. And then there's even, when you think about it, just doing a little bit of pre-planning. If you're planning on going, for instance, to a concert, I know there's areas where I'm at that if I'm going to go to a concert, it's probably not a place that I want to make a stop and fill up the gas tank, because it's just, there's high crime areas that I would rather go to the one closer to my home and fill up than go there and fill up. So just kind of having that situational awareness in those 3 levels. What's within a couple arms lengths of me? What's down within eyesight of what is happening or where I'm at. And then also just kind of knowing what's happening regionally. If you're thinking about going somewhere or making plans to go somewhere, it's that situational awareness to me to probably be the key.
Definitely. I tell people all the time, look up 3 inches. There's a whole new world out there in front of you. 3 inches up, you see a whole other world.
Yeah.
It's amazing what you can see. And that the pocket leash, I like to call it, the phone, is killing people, because they never look up, and next thing they know, they're either missing something that happened right in front of them, or it's happening to them.
So true.
All right, so now let's pivot into your security consulting and training organization. It's Castellan. Am I saying that right? Castellan Group.
Castellan Group. Yep.
Tell us about that.
Okay, so when I decided to leave NASA, I decided I was going to start my own consulting business, and that was Castellan Group. I started an LLC, right? And it was just to cover my bases as I started to branch out and do more teaching and consulting. And really the focus of my efforts, and even today, is for the law enforcement and other government entities, right? How to manage critical incidents and leadership stuff. But just recently I've pivoted a bit, because I felt like, man, there are some valuable lessons here for other folks to take away. And so I started to pivot a little bit and provide some of this training and education for the public and for businesses. And so what I've done is created a couple programs that I've been able to teach to a couple different groups that has to do with critical incident survival. And I've taken a lot of information from the different places I've worked and the different jobs I've had, working with crisis negotiators and, of course, the tactical, and even from some other experts, and came up with a model that I thought was really good for folks to take with them. Just as your last guest asked about, like, what are some critical things to consider to help mitigate the risk or to help me survive if I find myself, for instance, in the middle of an active shooter or a hostage situation. So my training has been focused on that. I've also recently written a book on that called Critical Incident Survival, the Win Mindset Model, which I stole from the legendary coach Lou Holtz. If you've ever heard him speak or listened to some of his writings, he talks about win, what's important now, right? And it's such a great way to frame problems. And I thought, well, I'm going to use this great way to frame the problem of how do I survive a violent encounter. And so that's what the book is based on, and it's what the class is based on. And that's where I'm focusing my efforts now, along with the SWAT command training.
That's outstanding. I'm showing the website now on the screen for everyone to see it. And it's castellumgroup.org. And it has everything on there. I mean, it's a pretty in-depth website. It has your LinkedIn, your Substack on top. You can do consulting to businesses and organizations, firearm safety training, which is very important with so many people buying weapons now. You can't just buy them and just think you're an expert. Get out there and get the training for them, please.
Absolutely.
And down here, I'd like your 5 pillars here: residential security, emergency planning, consulting services, firearms training, and investigations. It's a great website, and everyone, you should go to it. I've been sharing it in the chat all night, so people should be able to see it as well.
Thanks, Rich.
No problem. And there is one more question in there. I'm not sure if this is one you can answer, or if you have an answer to it, because it's an out there question. But let's see. I heard people put into witness protection are murdered because nobody finds a trace of them after that. If that's not the case, how do they stay hidden?
That's a good question. One that I'm sorry I can't answer. I've got no experience with the witness protection program.
Yeah, that's why when I read it, I said I'll bring it up, but I don't think either one of us can answer that question. I know I can't. And I mean, I've seen movies where people let themselves out of witness protection, like My Blue Heaven with Steve Martin, but other things like that. But I don't know.
Yeah, Goodfellas is another good one, right?
Yes, it is. Yes, he was. He actually got arrested again after he was in.
Yeah.
Yes. So, Bill, we talked about a lot of things tonight in an hour. The hour has flown by because we had a lot of great questions tonight. What's the best way? Is it through your website to get in contact with you?
Yeah, they could get me through my website, or they can just hit me up by email at info at castellumgroup.org. Info at castellumgroup.org, and I will respond.
All right. Typing that in there for them. Hopefully I didn't mess up the typing. And my final thing for you is, what's 3 things the Misfit Nation, our audience, can start doing tomorrow to be better people?
Oh, man, to be better people, huh? Well, I'd say the first thing is, and this is unfortunately something I see too often in our society. I wouldn't think a large portion of your listeners are like this, but it's look outward instead of inward. You know, we see so many folks today that are so inward focused. How do things benefit me? How can I get this? Or, you know, and start looking at ways to be more of a servant leader, I'd like to say, right? How can I help somebody else? So that's one way that I would say to kind of reframe things if you're not looking at things that way. I know if you're in public service or you're in the military, you're probably already doing that. The second one, and I've heard a lot of your guests say this too, but it really is a powerful thing, man. Start your day being grateful for something. Gratitude. We can always be grateful for something in our lives, and it can put a positive spin on the rest of our day if we do that. And man, I would say just get in the gym and hit it hard. That might be a good one for your listeners too. Get in the gym and work out.
Heck yeah, that one comes up a lot. Number 2 and number 3 come up a lot in this. Wake up, be grateful, get moving, and then caffeine usually hits in there a lot too.
Oh yeah, all day long.
See, caffeine's always up in the top tier. Bill, this has been awesome chatting with you. If you have a patch from either of your services, I'm going to start a wall here.
Okay.
I'd like to send one up to us to have it on there. You'll be the first one that gets on the wall. The first one arrives gets on the wall first, but it'd be great to have yours on there as well.
Outstanding. I'll get that going.
Outstanding. Thank you again for being on with us tonight, Bill.
Thanks for having me, Rich.
MisFit Nation, I hope you enjoyed this conversation and got something out of it. Make sure you take notes. If you didn't understand anything, reach out to me or reach out to the email that Bill's provided. Ask him questions. That's what we're here for, to help you be better at things tomorrow. That way you don't make the same mistakes either one of us have made in life. If you feel that darkness caving in on you, do not make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Reach into your wallet, pull out that 1-inch piece of paper with 3 names on it. Call those 3 names. They want to hear from you. and they will yell at you. They'll get you back in the right mindset, right frame of mind. If that doesn't work, dial 988. Listen to the prompts, follow them, let them help you. If you don't want to do that, contact us. info@themisfitnation.com, jake@themisfitnation.com, or steven@themisfitnation.com. And we will keep you on the line until someone local to you can get you the help you need so you're with us. Because the day tomorrow with you is 100% better than one without you. Until next time, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling. Good night, everyone.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the Misfit Nation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great Misfit Nation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling because we are
Misfit Nation. Misfit Nation.